Tragically, this time, when the family called for assistance to get him to a hospital, to get him treatment, they decide to gun him down in cold blood. Greetings, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the People's Global News Network. Greetings, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen of this country. Welcome to the People's Global News Network, where we bring you the stories that are unfiltered, uncensored, and we present to you the raw, unadulterated truth. We give you the facts that most mainstream platforms are afraid to let you hear. We're going to present a case to you today of a young man who was having a mental health breakdown, a mental health crisis. A gentleman has an extensive mental health history, which law enforcement of the Harris County Sheriff's Department already knew. The address that they were dispatched to, they knew that address, and they knew the gentleman there who needed help. Tragically, this time, when the family called for assistance to get him to a hospital, to get him treatment, they decide to gun him down in cold blood in front of his own home, in front of his family, and in front of his neighbors. We have to raise the question in Texas. When your loved one has a mental health crisis or a mental health breakdown, should you call law enforcement at all? Because one too many times now, and this is happening quite often in Texas particular, where people are calling to get assistance with loved ones who are having mental health breakdowns, but the police show up and kill them in cold blood. Welcome, greetings to the People's Global News Network. Thank you for sitting here with me. I am Brother Quanell X, and I'm sitting here with his sister, who's going to give us the whole story from the very beginning of this tragic day. Go ahead, introduce yourself, please.
My name is Reina Castillo. I am Henry Gonzalez's sister. My sister called the cops on May 24, 2024, to help my brother with the mental health crisis. When the cop got there, he was ready to shoot my brother. They knew he has mental health issues because they were there before a lot of times. Saul Suarez, he said in an interview when they asked him, he said that my sister only say crisis, which he knows he's lying because in the video that they put, she say clearly mental health. So I don't know why he's lying to the people. And he said my brother was he said there is no more danger. It was never danger. The neighbors knew him. He told me they can say what kind of person my brother was. My brother was a good person. And all the neighbors there knew him. And they told me, we can say that he was a good person. We can tell them. He knows they lying about it.
On that fateful day, the family needed help, like they have called before in the past, and got the assistance that was needed. When the 911 call came in from your family's home, your sister, she specifically said a mental health crisis.
Yes, she said it. She said mental health crisis.
And in Harris County, the county commissioner's court already approved and police method of operation in dealing with mental health calls has been changed over 10 years ago. And so when they get a mental health crisis call, they have protocols that they're supposed to follow to get a crisis intervention team out to the scene and the location with a mental health expert or therapist to try to bring calm and de-escalate the situation when someone is having a mental health breakdown. Did any of that happen in this case?
Not that day. They went there before, and the mental health crisis unit, they know what to do. They know how to handle the situation. That day, they took more than 1 hour to get there. The one just shoot him in less than 6 minutes.
So on the video, you can tell all the officer had to do when he saw your brother was keep his distance. He could have just stayed back at his car, not approached your brother, but he already had his gun drawn. He already was ready for a confrontation. And all he had to do was stand back and wait, observe at a distance, and wait for the mental health crisis team to get there to assist him like they've done in the past. What happened when he saw your brother? Let's talk about that day. When he saw your brother, what happened?
He had his gun pointed at my brother, like he was ready to shoot him. He was like 20 feet away from my brother. He couldn't use his taser. Why he didn't use the taser? He shot him 8 times. That's way too much. That's a lot.
On that day, the officer who responded to the call had a taser, had pepper spray. Was that a safe distance? He chose not to use any non-lethal force, which was at his disposal at a safe distance. He automatically jumps out with his gun in his hand. Why was it necessary to shoot him 8 times? What was the justified level of threat where he should have been shot 8 times? It's shameful, it's a disgrace, but someone within the Harris County Sheriff's Department must be held accountable for this shooting. How many more mental health patients, when they need assistance and need help, the help that you're going to give them as law enforcement is the graveyard? How often are Harris County families in Houston, Texas, going to accept that and tolerate that when all he had to do was back off? He was already a safe distance, this cop, this deputy. Just back up, man, and allow the mental health crisis team, and it is their job to be dispatched to deal with situations like this. Supposedly, when an address is listed in their system as a known mental health address where a mental health patient resides, that alert automatically pops up. In fact, the crisis team is to be alerted when that alert pops up. None of that took place in this case. None. He did not have to die. Many will raise the question, why didn't the man just shoot in the air? Why didn't he just shoot in the ground, just scaring, until others got there to talk the situation down? But there was no de-escalation attempt made by this particular officer. He was young. This officer was inexperienced. Why would you even allow that officer to take the lead at that scene? There are so many unanswered questions, but they must be answered, in my opinion, hopefully in a courtroom where this case should be litigated and mitigated for a wrongful death. To me, this is a wrongful death case, and that's how this case must be litigated. Unfortunately, it appears that more and more of these cases are required to have law firms now. Not legally, but it just seems that the unspoken requirement is to have law firms outside of Texas that are unafraid to challenge the Texas court system. The law is on the side of the victims in this case, but too many firms and lawyers themselves are too cowardly and afraid to go after the state, to go after the system. Who holds the system accountable when the system itself believes it's above the law? Tell us more about your brother. What kind of man was he? What was his life like? What was his childhood like, his teenage years like, up until this tragic day?
All the people that knows him, they know he was a good person. Even the neighbors, like I said before, they told us when they saw Saul Suarez saying that on the news, they were shocked. And they told me he was ridiculous because he was putting my brother like he was a professional criminal. And he wasn't. Why they didn't put the videos where They used to hit him like a punch him back when he was already handcuffed. The cops used to beat him. They used to throw him on the floor, do the shot hole, punching him. Why they don't put that on the news? Why they don't say that? They just put on the news and put the videos that they want the public to see. Why they don't put the whole truth? They used to beat him when he was already handcuffed. And I say this because it's the truth. And saying the truth is not a crime. They know it's truth. They used to beat him when he was already handcuffed. You think that's right? No, they can do that. And they do it. Why they don't put that on the news? Why they don't put those videos?
Let me ask you a question. There are mental health calls for mental health crisis in affluent white neighborhoods in Harris County all the time. But you rarely, if almost never, hear about in a suburban white neighborhood where there's a mental health crisis call for help and assistance where law enforcement show up and kill the person that's needing the help. But it happens over and over again in poor black and brown neighborhoods. It's almost like they believe they can get away with doing this to poor and black brown people. But they proceed with extreme cautious and extreme care in affluent suburban white neighborhoods. All we're asking for is police or mental health crisis calls for help the same way you do in affluent neighborhoods. Don't have a standard and a policy and a practice for poor people when they ask for assistance and help, but you have a whole separate one for affluent people and suburban neighborhoods when they seek the same assistance. What else would you like us to know about your brother?
He didn't mess with nobody, and they saying lies about him. That's what I don't like. They tried to put him like he was a bad person when he wasn't. A lot of people knows that, and they say they can tell the truth.
How was your family
He
treated?
was a good person.
How was your family treated that day
We
of the
were
shooting?
treated really
How were
bad.
you all treated?
We were treated horrible. We were treated like criminals too. When they put me in the patrol car, the cop that put me there turned the AC off. He turned the car off. It was so hot. And I was knocking the window to tell him if he can come and turn the AC on. And I told them that I needed to use the restroom too, because one of them slammed the door on me. When he get there, the cop, I told him it's so hot. Can you please turn the AC on? Because he went to get there something, and that's when he turned the AC on.
How long did you sit there with no AC?
I sit there a long time till he forgets something and he went to get it. I was there for a long time with that AC.
And were you accused of committing a crime?
Me?
Yes.
No.
Did you commit a crime that day?
No, but they treat me like a criminal, that's for sure. They were treating me so bad.
Why couldn't they allow you to sit in your yard or sit in your home while they question you? What was the need to stick you in the back of a hot police car like you're a criminal?
I have no idea. I still think about it till that day.
What about the other members of your family? How were they treated?
They were treated the same. My sister was treated the same. My mom was treated the same. They were treating us like criminals. I was in shock. I don't even know what to do. And then later on, I realized why they treat me like that. I didn't do nothing. We were in pain. We were in pain. They didn't let us see my brother. That happened on May 24, 2024. And I was begging the cop to let me see my brother. He passed away on July 9. My brother never saw him. Never, till he was in his funeral, July 17.
Let's be crystal clear for the viewing audience. He was shot in late May.
Yes.
Passed away in July.
Yes.
And they never allowed you to go to the hospital and visit your dying brother?
No, he, one of the cops let me see him just because I was begging him. Like 2 weeks before my brother passed away, one of the other cops that interviewed me, he told me, I think he knew what was going to happen because he told me, you need to go to the hospital to make decisions. He knew my brother was going to die. My brother was bleeding to death that day. We knew he wasn't going to make it. He was bleeding like water. His blood was running like water.
How long was he in the hospital before you actually had a chance to see him?
He was like 6 weeks in the hospital. And I only went to see him like 2 weeks, only because I was begging him to let me go see him.
So for 6 weeks, he laid in that hospital dying
Yes,
with no family contact, no family support, and it was forbidden by law enforcement for you all to even see your brother.
yes.
And your mother is still alive, right?
Yes, my mother wanted to go see my brother, and they didn't let her. They didn't let her. My mother was begging me to take her to see him. But they didn't let her see. They didn't want her to go see him.
What crime did the family commit to where they would not be allowed for 6 weeks to visit their loved one who was dying in the hospital from a police shooting? What crime would it have committed? What harm would it have done to allow his mother to have a few minutes with her son for 6 weeks? Policy and protocol needs to be changed. Really, legally, by law, you had a right, and your mother had a right legally by law to visit her son in a hospital. But law enforcement would never tell the people that. And often hospitals, they'll cooperate with law enforcement
Yes, they do.
in telling the lie that you cannot see him. And then the hospital will say, well, it's law enforcement that's not allowing you to see the loved one. Then law enforcement will lie and say, what's the hospital policy that nobody can see him? They work together on the
They
lie.
do.
When legally, by law, the family has a right to visit the wife, the mother, the first next of kin has a right to visit a loved one, even when they're in the hospital because of a police action. These policies must be challenged. These policies need to be changed. These unwritten policies that prohibit loved ones from seeing a dying loved one in a hospital needs to be changed. And hospitals must be held accountable too for working with law enforcement to cover up the truth and tell the family a lie. What else would you like us to know about your brother?
The hospitals like you said that before. We were calling the hospital and they were telling us that my brother wasn't there. And we knew he was there.
One lie after another.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this episode of the People's Global News Network. Hopefully, the next stage of this case will bring you episode 2, because there must be a lawsuit in this case. And hopefully, at that point, we'll be able to share other aspects of this case with you within the legal jurisdiction of the law that's permissible. Thank you for watching this episode. Thank you for having the courage to come here and speak up on behalf of your brother. Too often, they like to intimidate Latino families that are the victims of police misconduct. Use many different reasons. We'll go after members of your family that may be immigrants, that may have citizenship issues, if you speak up. Well, they didn't chump this family. They didn't frighten this family. So we thank you for your strength and your courage to come forward. And let me say this now, and I've always said this for years now. It would be one hell of a thing if the black and brown community hooked up to deal with the issues of police misconduct. We could change the whole reality overnight. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Please push that like button. Please share, and we'll see you soon. Thank you as always, the People's Global News Network.